Hey guys, Catherine here. I've decided to take a break from doing the Sculpey charms today and instead try something else that's occurred to me. I really like resin pouring, and to make pendants for resin pouring, what you do is you get a bezel, a bit of metal that either is just a rim to pour the resin into, or sometimes it has a back on it. And then you can stick that on tape, or if you've got the one that has a back, just use it directly and set things into the resin. Flowers and feathers and anything you really want, beads even. And then you just pour the resin on top of it and it fills it in. And what I would really like to do is do a resin pour in a bezel that's shaped like a bee. To that effect, it's really difficult to find bezels that are shaped exactly the way that you want them to be, so I thought, why not use Sculpey to make one that is shaped the way that I want it to be. So I've drawn out a pattern here in the shape of a bee so that I can make a bezel out of Sculpey and bake it and have a flat bezel without a back that I can pour resin into. So what I'm going to do, I've decided, is roll out the Sculpey, cut it into thin strips, and then shape it into the shape of my pattern. And I had considered just rolling it out flat onto the pattern and then cutting it out, but I can't see the pattern through the Sculpey, so that was problematic. And I had considered just rolling a snake from the Sculpey and doing it that way, but then you've got a rounded top and bottom, and I'm not a particular fan of that when I think about it in terms of the bezel, so I don't think that's what I want to do. I think cutting it out and then cutting straight edges from it is going to be the best way to do it, and will probably be the easiest way to get the most uniform shape. So I've got a couple of popsicle sticks here because those will set the width that it rolls out to, and those will also help me set the height that I cut my pieces to. Here we go. So I'm just gonna, I've got the popsicle sticks at either end of my dotting tool, which is what I'm using to roll the Sculpey out. That way the dotting tool cannot be closer to my desk than the height of the popsicle sticks. Go, and then I just roll it until it is of a uniform and satisfactory width all the way along. Here we go. That's pretty much, I think, as good as it's gonna get anyway. And then I will take my bit of aluminum flashing and cut a straightish line and toss that aside. And then I'm going to do the height of my bezel, the height of 2 popsicle sticks. And I just so happen to have 2 popsicle sticks here from rolling it out. So I will just line up the 2 popsicle sticks with this straight edge of the clay. Go. If I can. Let's see if we can approach it this direction. And then cut, and I get a uniform height, and then do the same thing for the rest of my flat piece of Sculpey so that they are all at least relatively the same height. The idea being to make it as uniform. Oh, well, that one didn't turn out straight. As uniform as possible. Let's try going straight down and seeing if we get something straighter. Yeah, that's straighter-ish. Okay. Toss that aside. Press that back together. See if I can't get a better cut there. There we go. All right. Now, the first thing that I'm going to want to do is do the head. So I will take a piece of Sculpey of a good enough length. Ooh, that's a little longer. I'll take a shorter piece. So actually, I might even be able to use that shortest piece there, which can't hurt, because the longer your pieces that you've got to work with are, the better when you get around to like these wing sections that are going to be pretty darn long. Go. Right. And then what I think I'm going to do is just square up these ends. Put my scraps together and roll this into a circle. If I can get it to go. Let's see. Try seeing if we can't get those ends to merge. And on the inside too. And something resembling a circle will hopefully come out of it. There we go, something resembling a circle. Perhaps even resembling the head of a bee. And then take my next shortest piece and do the next part down. And the reason why I'm doing them in this order is, if you see, the top part is a complete circle, but this one is a partial circle. Part of it connects up to the previous circle. So the previous circle has to be there for it to connect to. Go and line it up, and then why not hide that seam with another seam? Because if I'm going to have a seam, have as few as possible, I think probably is the best way to do it. There we go. And connect it, and then bring it around and cut it off and set the scrap aside, because I might have to roll out another set. I might not have enough straight pieces here. Certainly hope I do, but if I don't, I'll just make more. Be prepared, as they say. Alright, and then just flip it over and connect up the back. Then flip it back to the top side, because I always want to have the top side be the top side and the bottom side be the bottom side in this case, and there's a reason for that. The reason for that is that the back side needs to be entirely flat. If it isn't entirely flat, when I stick it to the tape, it is not going to adhere properly, and the resin, when I go to pour inside of it, will spill out from underneath, which will just make a huge mess of resin everywhere and is not really something I can recommend as a good idea. Go, all right. And the striped part of her body, I am going to do in two sections, one that comes down this way and then one that comes down the opposite way. And the reason for that is because I've got this nice sharp point right here at the bottom where her sting is going to be. And if you notice, I'm calling her a her. That is because, at least with honeybees, only the females have stingers. The males don't have stingers and cannot sting you. Go. So by giving her a sharp point to her abdomen instead of giving her the males have a very square bottom part of their body. By giving her that sharp point, I am very clearly saying that she is female. Here we go. Go and tip her back over. And line her back up. And then the 2 points, because I want them to connect, I'm going to cut this one at an angle like this, so that this cut is at an angle to the rest of the clay. And the reason for that is so that when I cut the other one, they line up and I get this really sharp point down here at the bottom, at least in theory. Go. There we are. And then joining it here. And on the inside, see if I can't slip my fingernail inside of there and press against it. Put a nice sturdy surface to press against. Oh, yep, and then my fingernail stuck to it because of course it did. And then flip her over and connect on the back side. And on the inside of the back, and then turn her right way up again. And then down and cut there. Okay. Oh, that's not quite short enough. That's okay. Always make it shorter. There we go. That's what we're talking about. Okay. Actually, I think I've got a flatter tool I can use to smooth these together, which might be a little smoother. Here we go. Yeah. There we go. All right, she is coming together. Press that down a little closer. Okay. We have achieved a body. Now for the wings. I think the longest wing first. Let's take that and straight cut. There we go. Okay, and then bend it around. Ooh, that's not going to be long enough. Let's take this bit of scrap and connect it to it. Just by, I think, pressing them together. And then smoothing it down. On either side. There we go. And then try that again. Oh, that didn't quite smooth down enough. That's okay. There we are. And that wants to be cut about there. So mark it while it's in place and then move it out of the way and then cut it. And bring it right up into the point that the previous one connected in. And smooth it in. And if you wanted to, you could also mix other colors into your clay. I'm just doing a black clay right now as a proof of concept, because if this works out, I can make whatever shape I want, not just bees. Here we go. And then the other wing. And we know that this piece of clay is not going to be long enough because the other one was not long enough. So just straighten that out a bit. And actually roll out a little bit more. Yeah, I think that's what we want to do. We want to roll out just a little bit more of this. I feel like that is going to be the correct direction to take. exact same thing as before, except don't stick it to my dotting tool. Here we are. That's as thick as that's going to be, and then cut it straightish and set the scrap aside, and then pick up the 2 popsicle sticks and use them to set the width of the next cut and cut it straightish. Close enough. And then connect that on to the bottom of this piece before we connect it to the bee. Just give a little bit of a better length without having to try and fiddle around with it over the bee. Go. I'm just using these 2 popsicle sticks to press it straight and flat. And there we are. And now connect it on. There we go. Here we are, and then a round and curve, and curve, and right there. Go. That actually is unbending a little bit, so I'm going to sharpen up that, and then sharpen up this, because this might actually need to be a little bit, it needs to be a little bit shorter. Alright, just keep trying till you get it right. Just again and again and again until it is the way that you want it. Because bees are important, and it's important to get it right. Now, do it however you like. Do whatever shape and style of bee you want. Make those tiny little shiny green bees that look like beetles. Those are adorable. You could do some of those. Oh. There we are. And then the second part of the wings, and that's going to want to slide right in there, so that's going to need a cut from the top down like that at an angle so that it slides right in against the previous wing and the body. There we go. Just a little gap in there. And it's going to come down and curve this way, so let's cut that off right there. Too long. Okay, shorter. Aha, there we go, that's a good length. And then press it on. And I never learn. I never do learn. I press it against my fingernails, and then my fingernails get stuck against it. Try, actually, see if we can't get a tiny pokey tool in there and press against that. Haha! That's the way to do it. go, and then it is curved into the previous wing just shy of where the larger wing has its turn upward. There we are. And then the second one, and we've got this nice sharp angle already cut on this, so it can go right against the body. And connect it on and smooth it down to it. And then curve it up. You notice how I'm just laying it over the top because I can mark where I want the cut to be ahead of time and then pull it away so that it's not connecting itself to the previous bit of Sculpey, and then bend it back into place. See, that's too long anyway. Go just a little bit shorter. Go. And press it on. Actually, don't use the pokey tool for that. That's probably just making pokey marks. See, at least the dotting tool makes smoother lines. Can kind of just smooth it out. And then I'm going to want to flip it over and smooth out the back side of all the wings, because I didn't flip it over because the wings kind of stick out to the sides and don't always... Aha, see? None of the back sides are smooth. That's okay. Just connect it all on. Use our flat piece if we can't kind of flatten that out, because it's the back, so we want it to be as flat and even as possible. There we go. There we are, and then I've got one last thing to do. The wings and the body are done, but she needs antenna. And I could just put two pieces of Sculpey coming straight off, but I still have to have a way to hang her, so why not just connect the antenna together, and that way I can tie a bit of leather or twine or whatever through the antenna and have it connect on that way. So I think that's what I'll do. I'll take another piece of this, go and take our flat edge and go, measure it out, and then straighten the ends. There we are. And then test that for length. That's actually probably just about the right length. All right, maybe it needs to be a little bit shorter. Make it just a little bit shorter. And try again. Actually, there's a bit of clay that's sticking itself to the inside. There we go. And connect onto the antenna. Go and round that out a bit more. There we are. then the back side. And flatten it out. And round it. And that should do it. And then I'm just going to want to make sure that I line it back up with my picture, because this is just drawn on wax paper, so I can leave it on this wax paper on my template itself as I'm baking it. And then I think what I want to do is just lay that on there and kind of secure it down a little bit. Just see if I can't. Oh, nope, now it's going to stick to it. That's okay. That's okay. We'll just pry it up gently. But that was to try and get it just that little bit flatter. And it is. That is probably good enough. Go, because the tape can flex too, so it should, I think, as long as it's not got huge gaps, be able to fit to the piece as well. But there we go. All right, 1B charm for a bezel. Now bake it and fill it with resin however you like. That's what I did today. Tell me what you're doing today. I'd love to hear from you and know what's going on. Leave a comment below.